Salary just happens to be the easiest metric to point to because you can easily identify how much compensation someone makes. But there are three other real costs.
Today we are gonna discuss about the high costs that founders must to have into account when they are gonna have their next AI hiring. So, what actually drives the price of an AI hire beyond its salary line?
Yeah, salary just happens to be the easiest metric to point to because you can easily identify how much compensation someone makes. But there are three other real costs. One would be just the amount of time and the amount of vetting goes into finding the talent. So, someone entry level, those are folks who have a less experienced skill set. So, easier to find, easier to hire. But if you're thinking about someone, and as you move up the skills ladder, you're looking for more specialized skills, and it takes a bit more time to do that, right? Alongside that is actually the wrong hire. And so you think about bringing in the wrong person, you have either one of two scenarios. You have the scenario where you don't actually get any work done, or you get a lot of work done that you can't actually put into production. And again, these are things that we don't necessarily put a numerical value on, but they actually do have an impact on the P&L, right? There is a real cost to not being able to deliver the product or service that you have promised. And the final one, you've identified a candidate that you want, you like, and you've identified that person because you have some AI driven product that you want to deploy to put into production, but you need the people to build it, right? And so that comes back to ability to meet demand for the product or service you're creating. If you don't have the people to actually deliver that, again, that has a real impact on the P&L.
Okay. And when is a contract the right answer and when is full time the lower total cost?
So contract would be the best scenario when you get a very time bound project and also very well defined. In that case, you can tell the contractor who's going to be short term what they're going to be doing, for how long they're going to be doing it. And you can open yourself up to the market of folks who are open to those types of contracts. Now, on the other side, when you're looking for full time talent, the benefits start to accumulate. Why? Because in the world of AI, right, if we're thinking about AI engineering talent, generally those people are working full time. And the really good people, in a lot of cases, have been recruited to work full time, right? And so to recruit that person, you also need to be considering them for full time, unless they were going to be doing part time work on the side of a full time or of a business that they're starting on their own. That's a different story. But when you think about the full time, the benefit, I should say, of a full time AI engineer out of Latin America, the benefits start to accumulate when you think about the other things that come into play. So it's understanding cultural nuances. And I don't mean like culture in terms of Latin America. I mean culture inside of the organization that full-time AI engineer is working for. There's things that work inside of one organization that don't. And you don't develop that simply by having a really solid skill set. It's actually by getting to know the personalities and the customs and the processes of an organization. And that person uses those things, which are generally undocumented, and they go into the development of the product itself. So the preferences, the cultural preferences, the organizational preferences go into the development of the product. And so when you think about bringing someone in full time, there are more benefits that someone who spends and thinks about the problem that the organization is trying to solve on a full time basis that the organization receives.
Where does LATAM full time hiring fit in the cost model?
Yeah. So full time hiring in Latin America is immediately observable in payroll, right? It's payroll costs. So as you're looking at your income statement, looking at the expense line item around, how much are we paying our talent? The most immediate impact is there, right? So saving could be up to 50% for the equivalent in whatever domestic area in North America that you're in. And so when you think about that, 50% means now you can hire two times more, right? Or you can afford a more senior level talent for what you're trying to accomplish. But I think the major benefits from that strategy come from the ability to work real time with the talent, right? And so it can look and feel very much like the domestic talent. All the benefits that people claim, like especially if we think about, hey, we need to go in office and whatnot, a lot of the benefits that they claim to receive having this kind of at home hiring, you can actually get that, but have the benefits accumulate payroll expenses because you have someone who you can work with real time. You have someone who you can teach your culture and make sure they fit within the culture. And so those couple things I probably get you a lot of bang for your buck compared to what you would be looking at for a more domestic hiring strategy.
What hidden costs absorb engineering capacity without showing up on the recruiting line?
So the hidden costs that absorb engineering capacity specifically, I think that many leaders don't think about the cost of a wrong hire from this perspective. When you hire someone and you have to put more time into, as an engineering leader, right, into the interview process and into the onboarding and training process than you expect to. So in the interviewing process, the hidden cost comes when there are unnecessary additional loops that you have to go through because no one has defined what either one the role should look like and what it should deliver to the skill set this person should absolutely have. And so you've got people who are engineers tied up in recruiting and they're not spending time doing engineering work. We're talking about very talented and costly talent on the engineering lead side. And so the more time they're spending recruiting is all getting the right talent is always important, but they're not close to the product, which is where they should be. And then you think about after the point where you've actually made a hire, if you make the wrong hire, there's a real cost to every additional hour that engineering leader has to spend either communicating, or I should say, maybe even trying to train someone who they expected to be to have a certain level of talent, right? To have a certain skill set, end up training that person live when that engineering lead should be closer to product. And we don't count those things because though that's not salary, people aren't paid hourly. But if you think about the hourly rate of even someone who is full time, every hour spent working on things that can be mitigated by a good recruiting process, those numbers, those hours rack up and that bill racks up, right? And I'm speaking a lot about productivity, but it does actually have an impact on profitability.